Now, moving on from the first section, we are going to talk about the management of the brachial plexus. As I've told you in the last section, that by taking the history and doing the examination, we need to decide whether what is the lesion and where is the lesion. And once we know that, we can move and proceed to management of the brachial plexus. In this section, we're going through what are the different patterns of injury, whether during the management we need to put in the nerve graft, do the nerve transfers, and what if it's a patient presents us after 6 months, and how do we can do the late reconstruction and the peripheral nerve injuries. So coming to the management, options usually include surgery, which may be including nerve grafting. Then there is a limited reimplantation, then monitoring the neurological features, and if the patient presents so late, that is after 6 months, usually what is seen is the foot end plates of the nerves are lost in the muscle, or they get degenerated after 6 months. So probably the nerve transfer, nerve grafting is not an option after 6 months. Then we have to move towards the tendon transfers. Usually the earliest intervention is done in 3 to 6 weeks, and then delayed intervention is usually done at 3 months to 6 months. And after 6 months, we do not need to intervene on the nerves level, then we need to transfer the muscles, because the function of the muscle will be restored by another muscle, not by the nerve, because the foot end plates in the muscles of the nerve are degenerated over time. Coming to the patterns of injury. It could be C5, C6, C7 avulsion or rupture with C7, C8 or T1 could be intact. If that is the scenario, then primarily the upper brachial plexus is involved, and that could be leading to, as C7, C8 is preserved, therefore the hand function, the other nerve would mostly intact, the intrinsics, lumbricals would be intact, leading to good hand function. But as upper nerves are mainly supplying the muscle, the nerves around the shoulder, therefore the upper roots usually are affected most, and leading to the muscles such as supraspinators, infraspinators, and teres minor, and all these they may be affected. If it's C5, C6 rupture with avulsion of C7, 8, T1, as you know, primarily it's the whole brachial plexus involved, but C7, C6 are injured, and there's avulsion of C8, T1. So the severity would be more of the symptoms of C8 and T1, that is the lower half of the brachial plexus. And usually once C5, C6, there may be neuropraxia, they eventually may recover. Eventually some degree and some recovery may be possible in the shoulder and elbow. Usually recover, as I told you, the shoulder and elbow usually recovers after some times. Hand function, as is avulsion injury, which is a poor prognosis compared to the injury which is postganglionic, therefore it may be lost forever. It could be a simply C5 to T1, although this is highly rare, but this can occur that the whole of the brachial plexus actually avulsed from its roots. It's a very poor prognosis, and usually once so much rootlets are involved, there may be few donor axons which are available to neurotize. But C5 or C6 lesions are usually involved, and there may be neurotization of this in both case may be helpful if it's a postganglionic injury. And some amount of shoulder and elbow, shoulder abduction, elbow flexion may be regained after neurotization in the case of the postganglionic C5 to T1 avulsions. Coming to the nerve grafting, as I told you, in 3 to 6 weeks, earliest possible intervention could be in 3 to 6 weeks, and delayed is usually at 3 months to 6 months. Now, if it is more than 2.5 centimeters lost, then that nerve cannot be repaired back or sutured back. Therefore, we need to put in a graft in form of either another nerve which can be taken from a peripheral area, or which is an expandable nerve which can be used, or we can use collagen tubes which can over the nerve grafting can be done. Nerve grafting usually involves could be done for the restoration of shoulder function, restoration of elbow function. Then if it's upper plexus injury, then probably some other nerves such as spinous S3 nerve, which is supplying the trapezius and the sternocleidomastoid, as these nerves are lying nearby, or if it's an isolated single upper plexus nerve injury, then nerves can be transferred in place of the another nerve. Therefore, it can provide the way of providing functional axons. Usually in case of C5, C6 avulsions only, if it's specifically upper roots are involved and all other brachial plexus is intact, then the nerve transfers can be done so that we can regain the function of C5, C6 nerve roots. such as spinal accessory nerve transfer to the suprascapular nerve so that the shoulder abduction can be regained. Other options include intercostal nerves being transferred to the musculocutaneous nerve so that the bicep brachia function can be regained. Using a phrenic nerve as an extra plexular transfer, that is, although it's not a part of the plexus, but it can be used to transfer for the C5, C6 nerve root injuries. Now coming to the lateral reconstruction, that is at 3 months to 6 months. Usually are after 6 months. That is, the first option after 6 months is the tendon transfer. Other muscles which can be used for tendon transfer is the pec major, latissimus dorsi, or the triceps. Now, depending upon whether if it's a, for example, supraspinatus is injured, then we know that supraspinatus has a role in abduction. Therefore, we can use the pec major as well or other muscles as well to function in place of supraspinatus so that the shoulder abduction can be started. But if it's subscapularis is injured, which is actually the internal rotator of the shoulder, then either we can use another muscle instead of a subscapularis, or we can simply cut the subscapularis so that the external rotation of the shoulder can be restored. Other options include free muscle transfer such as gracilis, rectus femoris, or contralateral dorsi. Now these are free muscles which are actually transferred from with their nerve, intact nerve and vessel supplies, and eventually the nerve and arterial anastomosis can be done and they can be transferred from lower limb to upper limb or contralateral upper side to the other side of the affected side. If all these nerve grafting is not possible, when the muscle transfer is not possible because the injury is so severe or it's been so extensive that this is not possible, then the lastly option of shoulder orthodesis, that is fixation in a certain angle so that the patient can carry out his normal function, is always an option. This could be for unstable or painful shoulder, or if there is glenohumeral fusion is needed to be done, as you can see appreciated over here in this diagram. This is where shoulder orthodesis is being done in form with an internal fixation plate. Then if the wrist function is not achieved, in case it was a CAT1 avulsion injury, the hand function was completely lost, then we can at least do the orthodesis so that the hand, at least patient is able to grip or use hand for the lifting of some object in form of a briefcase, and this can be achieved in form of orthodesis. In this section, we have gone through how to manage the brachial plexus injury. Once we know that what is the lesion and where is the lesion, then we need to plan out whether we need to intervene early, that is at 3 to 6 weeks, or we need to intervene late, that is at 3 months to 6 months. But if a patient presents to us way beyond the marked limit of 6 months, then usually the foot end plates of the affected nerve usually degenerate in the muscles. Therefore, nerve recovery in form of grafting or in form of nerve transfer is usually not possible. Therefore, we may have to move towards the muscle transfers, which would carry out the function of the affected muscle groups. Thank you very much. Keep watching sqadia.com.